G'day YouTube, Warbles on a lot here. Those of you familiar with the channel will recall that last time I showed you this hose, I said that all that remained was to figure eight cross flake it, and I showed the two hangers which I'd cobbled up for the purpose. Although this system looks messy, particularly so with a Layflat hose, because one of the problems with a Layflat hose is that it's very prone to kink, which when it's under pressure and you're trying to use it means you really kind of sort of need to have somebody else with you to keep the hose from blocking off the flow of water. However, as opposed to having no hose, this is better than nothing, and therefore I spent about $115 between the extra 25 metres of Layflat and the connectors on the Layflat, and also this connector to go from the pump to this connector to go from this connector onto the cam lock, which came with the 14.5 metre quote high sunny hose 1 inch, as supplied in the Firefighter hose kit. And between the $125.75 for the hose kit and the $380 it should have been for the pump, coming up to $505 odd, Old Local Effect got me a discount back down to $450. So plus the $115 to get 39 metres of hose, second grade, good for emergency uses only. Yeah, I thought that was worthwhile doing, because it took about a week of waiting and getting the time to do something about it for 36 metres. Of 25mm fire reel hose, rated at 1 megapascal of water pressure. Probably got a burst pressure of 1.2 megapascals. And this little unit can only produce about 250-300 kilopascals. So in terms of water pressure, yeah, this hose is overbuilt by a factor of 5. But on the other hand, you have to work very hard to kink one of these hoses. You also have to work very, very, very hard to poke a hole in it with a stick or a rock, just like this 19mm fire reel hose on the airport Firefighter. And as you can see, this hose too is figure eight cross flaked. It's sort of like a poor man's response to not having a hose reel on which to coil the hose. The figure eight cross flake system means that you've got half a loop of hose and then you've got half a loop crossed the other way. So as you pull away, it essentially stress relieves itself and becomes a single straight long line of hose without any coils forming, without any loops or kinks. As you can see, that comes off there, goes across, comes off there, and in theory you should be able, with a proper fire reel hose, to just run away in a straight line and have the hose follow you. Never going to happen with a Layflat, so I'm not going to try and demonstrate. Though you can see the system does kind of work. Not to flip it back around the engine though, because the heat shield on the exhaust will grab it with a Layflat, but not if I had a decent Bushfire hose on there. Principle illustrated, I think. So yeah, if you really had to use this, you've got this complicated multi-stage process to get your hose laid out, and you have to stop and sort out things like that before getting another length tangled in almost the same fashion. But this is the real trouble with Layflats in this country. Makes the idea of trying to rely on this thing in the long term for anything other than stopgap protection, bit of a silly idea. So, part one, line one, while this system of hanging up the hose functions perfectly, isn't it a pity that I put it on the nearest panel of the fence to where I wanted to site the water pump without having considered what an absolute nightmarish, tortuous obstacle course leads out in the direction from which that hanging setup wants you to unroll or unflake the hose. So the grand plan is, at this point, to remove these and reposition them. And initially I thought I'd just set it up across this panel, but a perpendicular line out from the middle of that, it's pretty crowded to the right as well. I kind of want something that faces in that direction, gives a reciprocal of there, and I'd kind of like to move the centre line over to about here, facing that away, so I can, if necessary, sort of run in a straight line out there to get the hose to there, or across there, or let the hose scrape across the bottom of the power cord tripod, and that way I can get out to directions on that side of the clearing. So I think I'm going to invest 2 star pickets, and I'm just going to build a hose hanger back here. So as well as rolling this thing up, after I take its couplings off the pump, I sort of have to seriously think about making a new hanger. Although because I have to go to town this afternoon, what's entirely likely is that after I fit these to one end of the new hose reel and reach into the grab bag from Irrigation Warehouse Group, 404 Grey Street, Glen Innes. Not only do they give incredibly detailed cash receipts, but yeah, $344, and now I was quoted $66 for the nozzle. It seems to have only cost me $52 for a US patented, manufactured in Taiwan, 3-way adjustable. Pressure, spray, stream, water off, water on. It's even got a little water pressure operated turbine in the centre of the nozzle, marketed by Nita, a division of Husqvarna Australia. So it's a Swedish, American, Australian, Taiwanese, solid metal, durable and tough, heavy duty gun, 18mm click-on, adjustable strong spray to jet stream. So, $116 for the extension and the fittings to go on to probably maybe $30, $40 worth of hose and nozzle, versus $344.54 for the right stuff. So, by the magic of the time dilation. I may be wrong, but my impression is that because this joint has no rubber compression washers, therefore I have to use thread sealing tape. Put on in tension before being, yes, with Stilsons and a vise. Nearly half a turn. Did done done. Inside the cam lock there's a rubber washer. And there are steel cams bearing on aluminium, and they'll bite in if you give them a chance, which is where petroleum jelly comes in. Really old, this batch. Smeared on the cam surfaces and the mating surfaces, the cams and the rubber washer. Okay, this joint here is another one with a rubber washer, so therefore it gets greased, not taped, because the greasier the easier. Okay, so that's now pretty much ready for service. So there's a washer in there, so that joint will get greased. There's no washer in there, so that joint gets thread taped. Below that, when I just went to grease the washer, it came off on my finger, and it turns out the lumen of the washer represents a considerable constriction on the inside diameter of the nozzle's handle. So, whereas this reduces from 25 millimeters, the diameter of the inside of the hose, to 21 millimeters, there, this piece, because of that ridge in there, has a minimum internal diameter of 18 millimeters. The inside of the pistol grip is 20 millimeters, but the inside of that washer, even before you compress it, is only 13 millimeters. So I'm going to omit the washer, and I'm going to go with thread tape on that join and see if I can get the extra 30% water volume through the 30% bigger hole. And we shall see what we shall see. Well, I think it'll hold. I hope it'll hold, and if it doesn't, I can always redo it using more thread tape. And again, more thread tape here. Well, I'll save that in case I absolutely have to use it. Okay, so that's done too. So just like childbirth, now we boil water. And wait, slight smear of Vaseline, which is a petroleum grease, and petroleum soaks into plastic and nylon. So it'll be greasy going in, and then it'll make the plastic swell up and fit tighter. We pour the boiling water into a saucepan, and we soften the nylon so it goes all the way on. And then we just do up the clamps, which we were smart enough to put on before we fitted the nozzle to the hose. Lay that connector to the hose, and then boil more water. And while that's happening, we take the implements and the hose over to the pump. Remove the old hose and its connector. Seeing what a great job the thread tape did. So we connect it to the pump, unroll the coil of black hose in the sun to see how far it goes, being plenty far across the clearing. Then we walk back with the Bushfire hose, showing its vast superiority to the Layflat for the conditions in which it's going to be expected to work. And though they gave me 2 hose clips for this end, there's really only enough room on the tail for 1. So we add the easy greasy, throw out the cold water. So we collect the hotliness and repeat the procedure. And that goes on the same as well. Well, likey so. And now, as it were foretold within the prophecy, if I'm going to get to town this afternoon, I'm just going to hang up the new hose on the old hooks. And as you see, the hose runs from the pump to the back of the stack. And then you just keep cross-flaking the hose in front of itself so that it'll come off all in one nice easy go. So, not neat, but functional. And now, we can do this. Or that, or anything in between. So I'm pretty happy with that. I will need to put more tape thread on that join. And as expected, these hangers didn't stand up to it, but this is how far out I was able to squirt the water. Look at that. I can reach out across the driveway from the pump wearing my firefighting hat. Ciao.